Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait for it. I'm so glad that I get to bring you this match. It's at the bottom right-hand corner. We're going right away. It's Maru. No time to wait. No time to talk about my feelings. God, pathetic. As in the top left-hand corner, it's Cure. That's right. We got another TVT here for you. Of course, this is the DreamHack Last Chance finals. We're here. It is the finals. We have made it two of the best, two of the best Terrans in the world. Arguably, you know, I would say maybe you put Clem up there. Maybe, you know, Bunny and Dream occasionally slip their way close, but they never quite get into the top three. But Maru and Cure, just the two best Terran players, I feel like. With the exception of Clem occasionally, when Clem's really on form. And of course, it's another finals for Maru. Here we are, it's another finals for Maru. Both these players had some pretty rough paths to get here, actually. This was a stacked tournament. Just to kind of do some background talk as we look at these openings. Nothing too crazy, no SCVs out on the map early. Just going to be scouting around. But yeah, both these players didn't have an easy path. I did get to cover Maru versus Time, which was actually an incredible TVT that we saw before this. Where Time really did step up, and it's kind of a shame that he's not going to be able to make it to the IM Katowice, potentially having visa issues. But Maru did end up taking that semifinal 3-1. Cure also got a 3-1 across the board against Solar. Solar getting himself another top 4. Always love to see it. Solar's such a fun player to watch. And then in the quarterfinals, I believe Maru took down Dark, actually, which was, felt like it might be the hardest match that he was going to have. And then Cure took it down, I believe it was Zest, yes. And now here we are, a best of 7. TVT, my favorite matchup. I don't hide my biases about what matchups I like to cast. And I'm completely honest, TVT is one of my favorite matchups to cast, especially Korean TVT. It tends to be a lot more interesting than European. No offense to, Hero Marine, but I like how the Korean players just look at this matchup and how they handle it. It is very, very interesting, and all the different build orders and kind of things that go into them all makes for a really dynamic matchup. And just like the small ways that you change your build, even to try and get these small advantages, can sometimes be massive. Now, that's not going to be the case in this first game. Both these players opening up completely standard, which we should be expecting. I think the only difference in build is the reactor timing, and even then, that doesn't make too much of a difference. Both players are going to be going up to 3 Reapers, 2 Hellions. Actually, Maru does cut out the second Hellion for a Widowmine, so just wants to be a bit more defensive. But let's talk about these players. I don't get to do a pre-show. Doing this from replay, of course, you get all of the, you don't get the perks of being able to talk about the series beforehand. So I have a lot of information. I did my research. So I'll be able to throughout the series, give you guys little tidbits and explain how it's gone between these two players. Because it definitely has been interesting. As here, just going to try and get map control, which is, absolutely he can do. Both players getting their first Cyclone out, getting the React or the Tech Labs onto their starports. This is what you expect from TVT. If you want a standard opening, both these players showing a good one. Maru, of course, just doing the more defensive version. Again, it doesn't change much. I think the only thing is your Raven might be slightly slower, just because you go for the Widowmine instead of the second Hellion. But that's like a few seconds difference. That really does not end up mattering in the long run. Overall, your tech is going to be fairly similar in the pacing to that of your opponent. But as I said earlier, another finals for Maru. There was a little bit of a period where, he was getting as far into tournaments as we would expect. Do excuse me as I'm a little bit stuffy. I'll be trying to limit how bad I sound between games. But there was a bit of time where Maru was not getting the results that we expected, especially after his kind of like, what was it? I believe it was 4 tournament run, because it was the 2021 Summer Season Finals, where he got the win over Rogue. The Asus ROG Finals, again over Rogue. Then there was King of Battles 2 over Cyril. And then also got the 2021 Summer Finals as well. So it was about a 4-tournament win streak there for Maru. Before eventually he was knocked off his throne during GSL. He was not able to make it into the finals, and that's actually where Cure came in, got his GSL win. But since then, it's kind of been quiet for Cure, surprisingly. Cure makes it deep into tournaments, don't get me wrong. And, you know, Cure is always a force to be reckoned with, but doesn't, you know, quite have enough to finish it off. And of course, getting to a finals for him here, I think, is absolutely massive. To show that, you know, he still is absolutely a top dog. That has not changed. Now, interestingly enough, in this game, we do see actually a difference here, which is that Maru's command center is quite a bit faster than that of Cure's. And I'm trying to look for a reason why, and the only thing that I can see just off the top of my head, there's no really reason why. Maru, I mean, has slightly less workers, but Viking timings are the same, just has that faster command center. Cure floating actually quite a lot of money right now, which really should not be. We should be seeing something pop down here. Finally, Stim gets started up. But yeah, Maru's going to have that orbital command center up just a little bit faster, so more mules, more money coming through for the NV Terran. And TVT, man, what an interesting matchup. Of course, you know, when you're in these games where you're just kind of looking at the players and you're saying, oh, well, you're getting into your Vikings, how cool. You're getting your Stim pack tanks and Marines, what a interesting moment. It's not as enthralling as the other matchups like TVZ or TVP, not PVZ. That kind of gets stale a little bit with the Stargate meta, but interestingly enough, one thing that I do want to mention is Maru's win rate in TVT right now, I believe, is around 70%. It dropped a little bit. It was close to 100. He was above 80% for a while, but then he did end up losing a series to Bunny. In TSL 8, actually, he lost a series to Bunny. But before that, he was on a 20-game win streak, 20-series win streak, actually, in TVT. Maru, and I say this every time I cast this matchup, as we are seeing here, try and move out to find an angle, but that will be quickly pushed back without much effort. Maru is the best TVT player in the world. Best defensive player, sometimes the best offensive player. He can get, you know, a little bit cheeky sometimes, and that will be his downfall. But yeah, it was on a 20-game win streak until Bunny beat him in that TSL 8 match. And that last time he lost was in the last Katowice to TY. You know, and of course you have to kind of harken that back to the TY and Maru kind of rivalry that was going on for a while. But yeah, it's exciting, this matchup, and I'm really excited to see how these players approach it, because of course in a best of 7, there's so much that you can do. There's so much build orders, or so many different build orders that you can bring to the matchup, different ways to be aggressive, to try and gain early advantages, to then push that forward. As I mean, one advantage that we do see here for Maru is behind an army supply, a minor amount. I think the only difference here is a Viking and what? That's about it. A few more Marines for Cure, but the main difference that we're seeing here is Maru right now sitting at 75 workers to the 66 of Cure. Of course, had that faster CC timing, again has a faster timing on his 4th base, so Maru is just going to be producing a little bit more. So even though he was down in army supply, you're going to start to see this engine kick in. You're going to start to see the extra production for him kick in, as already, I mean, should be having extra barracks pop down for both these players. Yeah, Maru already sitting at 5. Cure just getting up his additional racks. But the upgrades coming through for both players. Maru, 1-1 going to finish up. Combat shields as well on the way. And that armory, well timed out so the 2-2 can immediately start. Cyclone will get chased away from the Zelnaga watchtower. Both players just trying to keep vision control, trying to make sure they know what's going on with each other. And just kind of sharking around with their armies, not doing too much altogether. Now, we're going to see Maru, again, just push out with these small groups of Marines. Cure doing a good job of moving his army to deal with it, to make sure that Maru really can't get any scouting information, or the information at least that he wants. As interestingly enough, Cure here in a bit of a pickle upgrade-wise, needs to start up his +2 armor before that is too late. There we go. We'll get that on the way. So we're not going to see a massive upgrade timing difference, which sometimes you do see. There are TVTs where you will see one player prioritize upgrades, and it's actually something that Maru does a lot. And ends up getting, you know, like his 3-3 while his opponent is still on 2-2, and then can absolutely crush through with just pure efficiency. That does not look like it's going to be the case, though, in this game, as interestingly enough, Maru already finished his second factory. So you are seeing that additional tank production coming through for both players, or sorry, Maru and Cure. Already started up that second factory, so we're not going to be going straight into, you know, the 3 starports, as Cure actually going to look for an angle here. Anti-armor missile goes down first for him. Maru will eventually respond with one. There was some very good interference matrices onto the Raven and a few Vikings, but Cure, unable to really push the location, will knock down that sensor turret. As now Maru will be moving his Marines to another location, realizes there's no real point to have your Marines there. You have enough tanks that Cure can't push forward. Your air army is large enough that you shouldn't lose that fight, and so your Marines are largely going to be very useful, but this is a very large attack coming through from Maru. Cure just does not have his tanks in position, and that might be a kill on the CC. Good repair coming through, but the Marines of Cure are going to go down, and now Maru just stimming forward on top of the tanks, trying to get as much value as he can. Focus fire on the SCVs. 13 of them do end up falling. Overall, I mean, a pretty worthwhile trade. You lose a lot of Marines, but you get some worker kills. You put yourself back into that economic advantage. And as well, Maru, this whole time, has been sitting pretty on his 4 bases. Hasn't really stopped his mining. And you saw that when the base was lifted, the income advantage for Maru increasing drastically. As Cure again going to look for an angle here to push. Is actually down a Raven right now, and oh, Maru just snipes the weakened Raven right away. Does not want to deal with that. Cure, though, has actually found himself into a supply lead somehow. Has a larger army. Very quickly macroed back up to 82 workers, and adding on even more might be a bit too much. Usually, you know, the limit that you want to go for with your workers is about 76, 80, as Maru is going to just try and stem on top of these tanks that have been left behind, and actually will get a few kills onto the ones that are retreating. Some nice interference matrix. The siege forward. Maru, though, not taking a good fight at the start. He's able to eventually trade back, and the main difference right now, I mean, I don't think there's really much of an advantage for Maru. Cure actually has more Marines left over. Maru lost a lot of his in that attack and then in that trade there. So you can't really push this. You have enough tanks as Maru that you're not going to die. Cure's not going to be able to stem on in and, you know, knock down your tank line, but you do have to be careful. That's a cute move. Actually gets the tank. Okay, Maru. Okay. Should actually get a second one here as well. The Vikings are being brought over. Oh, run away. 1 tank will go down, but you get 2. You take that trade any day of the week. Corbin Reactor finishing up for Maru. Behind this, he has managed to get into his 3 starports. Cure has as well, but not started on that upgrade, which is kind of important. So the reason why Corbin Reactor is such a good upgrade is because it's kind of like pathogen glands for your infestors. It gives your Ravens extra energy just right off the bat, and that is absolutely great because it means that your Ravens take less time to build up energy, and especially when you're trying to remax or you take a big fight, your Ravens will just have more abilities that they can cast than your opponents, especially if they don't have that upgrade. And so for a while here, Maru is just going to have that slight advantage. He's also producing 2 Ravens at a time to the 1 of Cure, so it's going to be, I mean, it's really, late game TVT comes down to these spellcasters, and there is no one better at using Ravens than Maru. I mean, I'm thinking back to 2016 when Maru would just play Mass Raven every single game. I mean, every Terran was doing it, but Maru would use this unit so much, and even now, still is a master of it in Terran versus Terran. +2 vehicle weapons is going to be coming through for Cure, or for Maru rather soon. Also has his +3 already finished and has found a position here. Cure is just not ready. This is very, very bad right now for the DPG Terran as he's trying to siege on forward, but Maru is already set up. Cure, this might be a bit of an overstep. Anti-armor missiles onto all of the Vikings. The tanks go down. Maru is actually the one that's dipping in supply as Cure right now has a massive Viking count. 15 in the air. Has been producing I mean, so many will be able to get air superiority, air dominance. And it looked dangerous there for Kira, but he's able to pull it back into his control. The base is still being sieged up, though. As the Raven goes down. And now, look at that, 3 Ravens at a time on the way for Kira. He's actually swung this game into his advantage, it feels like. With both players right now, at least, sitting on 5 bases or so. Kira trying to take a 6th. It just feels like Kira, I mean, he's 4 Ravens at a time. He's absolutely trying to use this advantage the best he can. This planetary fortress will go down. Kira was unable to push his tanks forward. Right now, that is the advantage that Maru has. 16 tanks to 11. This Raven count is very quickly going to spiral out of control. Very, very quickly for Kira. And I don't know if Maru's going to be ready to deal with it. I mean, Kira handling this game perfectly, and that's what you expect. I mean, these two players, they trade games so often. I think right now their series score against each other 9-7. 9-7 in favor of Maru, barely above 50% win rate. They go back and forth. They trade series. And Kira's showing why right now. As Maru is going to begin his quadruple Raven production, also getting his ship plating on the way. But I mean, Kira is right now just a step ahead. Ship weapons and ship and vehicle plating. +2 for both on the way. For Kira, it just feels like right now has that leg up. Has that slight advantage. He's not, he's not worrying about getting +3 for his tanks because realistically, once you get into these air battles, that +3 matters not as much as getting just the +2. Because the +2 allows you to neutralize the marine threat once they stem forward. It makes your tanks just that much better at dealing with them. Once you get +3, it's really for the tank-on-tank battles that you get +3, and for knocking down these bases. Maru's going to come on in. Immediately the casts go down with the Ravens. Auto turrets going down, but look at the interference matrices. Maru does not care that he might lose those Ravens. He's going to be able to get a position once again on this base. As the drop is denied. Kira was not ready for this, and I mean, that's just Maru seeing an opening. He realized that Kira was not ready. He just moves his Ravens forward. If Kira was paying attention, you can just snipe those down with your Vikings before they can even get those spell casts off. That was not the case now. Kira still with that air lead, but I mean, yeah, okay, Kira does just need to build army here. Still sitting at 81 workers, still a very, very healthy economy. Sure, he's down a base, but that's not really a worry at the moment as scans go down, trying to track the movement of each other's armies. Maru's still only working with a single armory right now. No, it does have 2, but is not working on... Okay, he's working on double. Never mind. Did just finish up a second. But it's going to be finishing up that +3 for his tanks, and that means that... I mean, even if Maru does not get the interference matrices off on Kira's tanks, his tanks will just hit a little bit harder. The splash damage is going to be a little bit greater, and so that can make the difference. Is going to finally try and start on his double air upgrades, but again, Kira already has that in the bag right now. +2, finishing up for his Vikings. That on top of the Viking lead, on top of the Raven lead. Kira's army is strong right now. Maru's only advantage is 2 tanks and 8 Marines, and that's not really a convincing lead. As missile turret walls are actually going to start to go down here for Maru. So both players trying to set up these little outposts where they can set a few tanks to both keep an eye on the opponent and also stop them from counterattacking across the map without taking some damage. Missile turrets, of course, make sure that Vikings and Ravens can't just try and get rid of the tanks like that. As this siege up a bit close, a nice interference matrix. But, oh, Maru trying to target fire down the Ravens, gets a few. But again, Kira just has the greater numbers. Tanks being pushed forward. Should be able to get a kill onto that Zelnaga Watchtower tank of Maru. As Kira trying to chase this down, he thinks he has an opening. He very well might. Looking to get snipes on 3 tanks already. Just pulls back. Evening up that tank count, so crucial here for Kira. As now is going to drop on top of that other kind of harpoon tank away from the rest of Maru's army, as Maru, again, looking for an opening, gonna disable all of the tanks. He says, Cure, you're out of position again, as the Marines stem forward, but Cure's coming in for the surround. Cure, all of the tanks are down for Maru. None of them can siege up, but look at this. This is why you have the missile turret line. Maru can just retreat to this, and Cure can't do much. He's gonna try and push this down, but the missile turrets get so much damage onto that air army. Cure will, pick off the tank and the sensor tower. Finally be able to come through with his Ravens. Try and put down auto turrets maybe, but he's actually out of energy. Still, again, has more Ravens, but look at the energy for Maru. Maru just has more. He can put down as many auto turrets as he wants. These tanks are going to go down. The auto turrets are absolutely going to win him the fight right now. And Cure's supply is going to start to drop. Maru focus firing down the Ravens so well. But it's 3-3 for these Vikings on the way for Cure. And if those upgrades finish up, it's going to be such a massive advantage for him. The issue is the gas, though. Look at the gas mining for both these players. Curious Minds is not a large map. It is not a big map. It's 7 bases per player, and that 7th base it's hard to take. Of course, in this game, both players have kind of conceded it over, but you do not have a lot of economy to work with. So even though Cure is working at a 5k mineral bank, he does not have the gas to replenish his Raven count comfortably, or his tank count, or his Viking count. If there is a large fight and all of his tanks go down, the Cure's not replenishing, and Maru thinks he has an opening, and he absolutely does. All of the tanks are disabled. Maru just gonna absolutely run over this tank line. Cure, what do you have left? It's not a lot. 7 Ravens to 6, 3 tanks to 13. It doesn't really matter. Maru has +3 tanks. Your 3-3 air upgrades aren't done, so your Vikings can't outright win this battle just yet. Maru looking to try and end game number 1 right here, once and for all. Knock down this base once again. And it will fall. Auto turrets go down, another tank picked off. As Maru has been slowly but surely suiciding his SCVs across the map, trying to get a little bit of harassment done with them. But Cure has dipped down to 160 supply. He's trying to replenish his tech units, but again, you see how hard that is. 3 Ravens, 2 tanks. He can't replenish the Viking count, though. Currently sitting at 15, that's all he has. 10 Marines at a time. Maru sieging forward once again. Do you have energy on your Ravens? You do, but it might not be enough as, the anti-armor missile from Maru. Cure can't respond. He doesn't have any energy left, and that means that this Viking fight, even with the 3-3 for Cure, should actually go fairly even. And Maru, he drops on the tanks. Gets so much damage done. Cure drops below 140 supply. And Maru just producing more Vikings now. Again, still has that tank lead. 13 siege tanks for Maru. He's actually taking his opponent's base right now in this 12 o'clock position. Maru sieges up the gas. He knows that that is the most important resource at the current moment. And Cure is starving. It is Vikings and Marines for Cure. There is no tanks being produced. There are no Ravens being produced. Auto turrets have to go down to try and defend, but interference matrices onto the front tanks. More go down onto the back. All of the tanks are disabled. But Maru feels like he stepped a bit too far forward here. He's not able to actually get the kills on the tanks, and now Cure is actually moving in with a group of Marines to try and counterattack this base. And Maru, it felt like he has such a massive advantage, but suddenly Cure finds a defense. Has 39 Marines. He's gonna be able to snipe. Oh, all the Ravens might go down here. Maru, you don't have any Marines to defend. Oh, Cure. Maru made the vital mistake, the crucial mistake. He forgot his Marine production. And it happens to everybody. You get to this stage of the game and you forget that you need to have a healthy Marine count just for this, as Cure is now just going to look for a drop onto the tanks. Does manage to get an unsiege, but one tank should go down. Never mind. Oh, Cure's just going in for this round. This might be a bit aggressive, but tanks are on siege. He's trying to fight it. I think Cure, I mean, does he have enough? The army supply is dipping, but he's managing to clean up at least some of it. Still, though, 10 tanks remain for Maru, and now that Marine count that Cure had such an advantage with is gone. He threw it away there trying to clear out that position, even though this is a base that you don't really need as Cure. I mean, sure, you want to try and break this position, but you don't. It's such a hard spot. Maru is going to take game number 1. GG is called. And I misspoke a little bit at the end of that last game. While it was, you know, it did feel like a throw that Cure went for that cleanup. One thing that you have to consider there is that was the only healthy base left with gas and minerals. You know, it was a situation where for Cure, you have to try and clean that up. Because if you get that base, you know, you can suddenly get back into the game. If Maru gets that base, he's just going to propel his lead even further and further. You'll slowly bleed out, and you'll end up dying. So you have to try and make the move there. Cure does it, but Maru just has too many tanks. Too many tanks. Tanks, tanks, tanks. And that is the story of the game. Maru takes a long game number 1. And this kind of leads me to an interesting point, because I was looking at the stats before this series, and I was looking at the games, I was seeing, oh, look at that map score, you know, or match score, 9-7. That's pretty even. You know, 29-22 map score. And I was looking at that and I realized, wait a second, most of the wins for Cure are in best of 3s. And maybe a best of 5 here or there, I believe. No, actually, just a best of 3s. So, interestingly enough, Cure is very good in best of 3s against Maru, but in elongated series. And this is a trend that has been going since 2020. So for 2 years, Maru has won every best of 5 plus these players have actually met in, which is an insane statistic. You know, all through 2021, Cure did not beat Maru in a single best of 5 plus. I mean, best of 5, best of 7. Now, does that mean that Cure is going to lose this series? No. I mean, we saw how close that last game was. Sure, Maru was able to take it, but there was moments there where it suddenly looked like Cure was going to be able to get the victory, as Cure does manage to get the Reaper quite low for Maru, using that SCV, gets the snipe on the building SCV, and so this is going to delay the command center of his opponent just a little bit. Will have to back up his own Reaper as the duo comes out for Maru. But yeah, I'm interested to see, can Cure break the curse of playing in a best of 5 against Maru, or a best of 7? Is this the series to do it? Well, this is the game to try and, I think, make that start on that comeback. Because of course, you know, you lose that game 1, it does hurt. You know, it's always unfortunate to lose the first game, especially when it's so close, when it's, you know, 20 minutes plus back and forth like that. But if Cure is able to bounce back here, get a win, suddenly we're on completely even footing. We'll see if he can do so. You know, looks like the start of this game going to be pretty much the same, actually. In fact, exactly the same to the last game. So neither player wanting to risk being aggressive earlier, and there is a good reason for that, because, and it's just because these players respect each other. Cure and Maru have faced so many times, they both know that, hey, if I try and pull a risky move, an aggressive move, there's a high likelihood that you're going to be able to defend it if you just play standard. And so you don't want to risk that as, ooh, the retarget, so nice. Oh. Maru. Cure tried to bait the Widowmine shot into Maru's Reapers, but no, your Hellion was too close. The other Hellion was too close. That was beautiful. But as I was saying, both these players respect each other enough, their defensive capabilities, that really if you try and go for something like, ooh, I'm going to go 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion, I'm going to build a tank and a medevac, I'm going to fly across 4 Marines and a tank and try and apply that pressure, both these players know that if I do that and my opponent plays completely standard, I'm going to get completely crushed. And so they don't want to risk that, of course, in a game. It puts you too far behind if it doesn't end up getting defended. And the potential damage usually is not game-ending if your opponent handles it, you know, decently enough. So we do see Maru here pushing out. Both players managed to get a lock onto the Reapers, and that is about it. A tank out for Cure, so he should be able to push us back, but the Widowmine may be annoying. A great split there from Cure, though. And this fight actually is going to continue to go on. That Cyclone quite low for Cure. But manages to get the better end of that trade. Cleans up the Reapers, cleans up the Widowmine. Doesn't lose any of his tech units. Keeps that Cyclone alive, which is, I mean, the big part of that. As Maru is going to continue to pressure here. We'll be bringing actually a tank across. So you know what I said about, applying pressure? Apparently that doesn't really count, but this is less committed than other types of attacks you can do. There's a third base behind this. Maru is just trying to pretty much delay his opponents, try and see how much he can do to slow him down, as that's a great interference matrix. 2 Ravens are out for Cure. Should not be able to chase this army down. Might be able to get a kill on a Marine, and that should be about it. As I said, not the most committed pressure, just trying to get something out of Cure, and, well, got some Raven energy, which is, early in the game, actually pretty worthwhile. Early Raven energy, especially if you're planning to be aggressive in the mid-game, can be very impactful if you get it out of your opponent, just because, again, you're going to have more spellcasts. You're going to have more things you can do, more utility from your units, and so we'll see if that comes into play. Of course, if it goes long enough without Maru being aggressive, without Cure being aggressive, and we kind of just have this stalemate, then that's really not going to matter in the long run. As Maru is floating out his third base again, just going to be a little bit faster. This game, it's not as drastic as it was in game number 1, where Maru had about that 30-second advantage on his third command center. And in fact, in this game as well, both players going to be on top of their +1 and their stim timings. So a pretty identical game. And I think even this time, yeah, even closer than the last one. Cure does have the advantage in the Vikings, as, ooh, this could be dangerous. Cyclone getting quite low, down to 1 hit. Maru's not going to try and chase that down. Recognizes the threat of the 4 Vikings and that you can't really attack into that. As Cure did cut a Raven for it, so usually how it goes in TVT is you can go 2 Ravens and start your Viking production then, or you go up to 3 and then swap over to that reactor. As this is actually an opening, Maru managed to maneuver around his opponents, now bringing the tanks forward, and this is where the Raven energy can come into play. If your Raven, oh, the snipe, that is massive. Oh my, yeah. Command center has to be lifted off, pulled away. Maru, that's such a nice move. The Cyclone lock on. Gets rid of one of the Ravens. It was the low energy one, but still, now you're 3 Ravens to 1. Cure can't really break this position, so that's why he has to lift off the command center, retreat it to the other third base location, because he knows that there's not going to really be a chance for him to break that with the 3 Ravens available for Maru. They're now just going to go straight onto the main. They know there's no more need for them at that front, and they're going to start to get those SCV kills, and those auto turrets absolutely shred through SCVs. 7 already going down, another auto turret. Just going to try and be annoying, going to pick up an 8th. And Maru, 11 workers in the lead right now, is behind in that army size. And again, that's mostly Vikings and Marines for Cure. As one of the Ravens did get sniped. We didn't get a shot of it in the main base, but the Raven did end up going down, as it looks like Cure is actually trying to pounce on top of this army. Auto turrets go down, the tanks aren't sieged. Maru, have you been caught out of position? The Ravens are all down. The auto turrets, though, buy so much time. But Cure is just going to land the Vikings. He's going to absolutely shred through the tanks. And that Viking count comes out in full force to win Cure that fight. And now Maru's army is absolutely tiny. Only a single tank, 8 Marines. Cure can absolutely try and push this advantage, and he should. Scan goes down. Cure recognizing, hey, my opponent doesn't have a lot here. The tank is out of position. Vikings are going to lift on off just to get that air superiority, and that's going to force the lift off for Maru. As Cure returns the favor, says, hey, you forced me to lift off my CC, I force you to lift off yours, and actually these Vikings might even be able to pressure, might be able to pressure the command center. Oh, Cure, you're getting a bit aggressive here, actually. Maru's just going to run down the ramp. He's going to split his Marines. I don't know what Cure is doing. What was that? That was a good trade. I mean, Cure had an advantage, forced, you know, Maru to respond to it, but then tries to push up the ramp. And even though Maru, you know, only has like 1 or 2 tanks out at that point, you're fighting up a ramp. The Marines just come in and collapse. That was not the move for Cure, as the game kind of gets reset back to, you know, a stable position for both players. +2/+2 on the way as well for both of them. Maru actually about 20 seconds on his upgrade ahead. Also starting up his +1 vehicle weapons just a little bit faster. I'm still baffled by that move from Cure. I have no idea what that was. I mean, I get the idea. You have the advantage. You have the Vikings try and push it and try and, you know, make something out of it. But he was pushing with, you know, 1 tank was being left behind. Just did not seem like the optimal play there. And now suddenly we have Maru on 4 bases. Maru had an extremely fast 4th base. I didn't mention it, but now looking at it, his 4th base is fully saturated. And so Cure even forcing a lift up on that 3rd. Sure, it's good for Cure, but it doesn't really matter because right now Maru is mining so much. Now, Cure will get his own 4th up, and of course with mules, you know, that income advantage doesn't really mean anything. Maru pushing with Marines, gonna try and see if he can get any damage. Is just pushed back by the Marines and the Vikings of Cure. But now we have the upgrades coming through. +2/+2 gonna finish up for Maru. Just moving around with these few Marines, gonna try and snipe the sensor tower and should be able to click on the Marines to see what upgrades there are for his opponent. Of course, you will have those completing soon for Cure, so he's not gonna be terribly far behind. As additional starports are being added on for both players, of course. Double tank production for both of them. 3-3 already started, though, for Maru as he manages to snipe the refinery. Now dives on top of the Marines. He's going to have to try and get on out. Loses quite a lot, though, as Cure. Just macroing up behind this is really allowing Maru to just attack him. And, I mean, sure, Maru, you know, you're getting a snipe on a sensor tower. You're, you know, forcing a reaction out of your opponent, but you're losing units for it. So right now, Cure is sitting at 91 army supply up. 177 to 163. But this 3-3 timing is going to be the big difference. I mean, the 3-3, the +2 vehicle weapons as well for Maru. Already working on his 2nd armory. Right now, Cure's invested a lot into his army. But that doesn't really matter when you have, you know, when you have these upgrade advantages. And that's what Maru plays for. Again, I've said it time and time again, Maru prioritizes upgrades so well. Just watch any game that he's in, and there's any TVT that he's in. And it is such a joy to see how he handles these situations where he might be behind. But he's going to make sure it's not for long. Corvid Reactor on the way for both these players as they have added on their additional starports. But the Raven production has already begun for Raven. Or, the Raven production has already begun for Maru. Cure. Still behind on that facet. We have players expanding. Getting up their additional command centers. Sure, Cure has a 15 supply lead, but there's not much you can do. Cure, wait a second. Okay, I was gonna say, Cure hasn't started up his +3 armor. That was a big oversight. That is so delayed. Now this upgrade advantage for Maru will just be exacerbated by that fact as the building command center is gonna go down. There's the cancel. Maru just now gonna look for SCV kills. Doesn't manage to get much of it as his own command center was delayed. Maru trying to expand faster than his opponent. As we have the Corvid reactors finished up for both players. Maru just gonna take this fight. Absolutely can. Forces back his opponent. As right now, Maru has a pretty big window where these supplies are evened up and his upgrades are done. +3/+3, +2 vehicle weapons are all going to be done. Cure still does not have that full list of upgrades for at least another 45 seconds to a minute. But of course, Maru doesn't know that. Of course, you can click on your opponent's units, you can see what upgrades they have, but you don't know when they're going to finish up. Still, Maru just trying to take the slight advantage that he has. And absolutely compound it as far as he can. 5 starports for Cure, 3 for Maru, so we should start to see Cure get into a better position with this army count. You are seeing, you know, Maru with the Raven advantage, 6-2. That should change soon. There we go, ship weapons starting up. And Cure's upgrades will finally come to fruition, so no longer going to be behind. Both these players sitting in massive 100+ supply armies. As Maru is going to look for a position to push here, has his Ravens, has his Vikings, and well, it's really all he needs. 7 Ravens to the 4 of Cure, as Cure can't really find a position to actually stop this push. He got stuck there, trying to move the long way around, not the path that was defended as Cure. Oh no, this is not the move. As maybe 2 tanks go down, but you lose all of the Marines, your base is lifted off, and now you're gonna lose 2 more tanks. Maru absolutely making the right decisions here in Cure. Misstep across the map, misstep and on his own side. Costs him 40 supply and his entire bank, which Maru is now building up. Maru doesn't need to spend money. You know, he has extra command centers going down. He's working on planetary fortresses, adding on as many bases as he can. And this is actually starting to look really bad for Cure. I mean, it felt like he was in such a good position, but all it takes is one fight, one bad move, and suddenly this game is in a completely different position as Maru is going to find this planetary fortress, is going to siege it up, and again, Cure, he's having to play reactionary, so he's out of position. You know, his tanks aren't there. That means the base is going to go down. Maru trying to force the fight, focus fire onto Vikings, or onto singular Vikings. Cure has 18 Vikings. I mean, he does have, he has the starport count. 18 Vikings does mean that Cure, again, you have the air dominance, but does that matter when you don't have the ground army? 13 tanks to 7, 35 Marines to 22. Your Raven count is even, so even though you have so many Vikings, you're not able to take advantage of it. You're not able to use that Viking count as more bases are gonna go down. Maru is just absolutely leveraging this position to the max. This is 4 bases killed. 4 bases. And behind this, Maru is just, you know, just adding on command centers, adding on upgrades. Everything is hunky-dory. And Cure finally got back to maxed out, but you know, how long will that last? So here we go, Maru trying to commit on in. Spellcasts go down. You can't really fight in the air. Again, there's a lot of Vikings here for Cure, and so if you go for the straight-up fight, it does not end up working out for Maru. Look at a bit of damage onto the Vikings, though, as more Ravens are being added on, and that's absolutely what Cure needs. Again, you have the Viking advantage. Build some Ravens. And he is now himself sitting with a few more than Maru. Gonna try and keep that advantage up. There's 2K minerals in the bank for Maru, 1K gas. Even if he loses this army, he can rebuild to an extent. And Maru's actually split up his forces, has a group of Marines here trying to stop bases from going down, and will be able to do so. So, Cure doesn't have enough Marines here to fight until the anti-armor missile goes down. Even then, Maru's actually still trying to take the fight. Just has enough Marines. realize that Cure just, I mean, misassessed the situation, and Maru, I don't know how he does it, but in a second realizes he has enough to push that. Now, this Planetary Fortress, that's a bit aggressive, so that will end up falling. As Cure once again going to try and come in and clean this up. The auto turrets will help out. Finally cleaning up that small group of Marines, but Maru immediately remaxes. Just being so annoying. So annoying. Because he can be. 3 SCVs go down. Of course, it's not a massive amount at this point in the game. Scans either way. Oh, interference matrices onto the tanks, but Maru looks like he actually might be winning the air fight here. Cure does, I don't know what happened, but I don't think he focus fired immediately with his Vikings. Maru got off the first volley, and that means he's gonna start to win it. It has the superior upgrades as well. With the +2/+2 finished. Started on +3/+3, and we're almost in a switched position from last game where Maru's the one getting these air upgrades. Or last game it was Cure, but this time it feels like it might actually work out for Maru because, mind you, he still has a bank. He still has so much that he's working with. His ground army is still, you know, decently large, so he's not really worried about having too much in the air and not enough on the ground. Is Maru just going to come in to try and clean this up? He says there's no air support. And the tanks get dropped on. The auto turrets go down. The Marines try and come in to support, but they are all but too late. As Cure is stimming forward, bringing through the Marines. Actually has a lot of Marines that were just sitting nearby. Tries to bring forward the rest of his army, but it doesn't even work out. 120, drop below 120 for Cure. Maru's still sitting at 170. GG is called. Maru takes game 2. And goddamn, Maru's late game. It looks so good. It is crazy. Absolutely crazy how solid he looks. And for Cure, I mean, this is 2 games in a row where you said, hey, listen, I'm going to go to the late game with you. I'm fine with that. We're going to play macro. And it's 2 games in a row where you've just slowly been bled out. Better decisions have been made by your opponent. And you just end up losing the game through a war of attrition. So what do you do? What do you do? Because, I mean, it's a best of 7, sure. But right now, I mean, with how good Maru looks in this matchup, with how good Maru looks in general, I mean, arguably right now the best player in the world. What are you going to do? Because you can't, I don't think you can do the same stuff. You got to mix it up if you're Cure, and that's always the scary part. Is when you're playing against a player so good that you can't play standard. Or else they're just gonna win, and that might be the case. We'll see if Cure has a plan for game number 3, because if not, if we see the same thing, Ravens and Vikings, tanks, you know, fights all over the map, I can't help but worry that we might see Maru here go up 3-0. And I mean, sweeps and best of 7s don't happen a lot. You know, usually a player is at least able to take a game off their opponent. You get a 4-1 or a 4-2, and that's pretty one-sided. But a 4-0 in a best of 7 is, I mean, utter domination. I said it last game, I mean, Cure hasn't won a best of 5 or a best of 7 against Maru since 2020, but it's felt like Cure has, you know, kind of always been doing well. And you know, Cure always has that potential to play absolutely out of his mind and to just play the most clinical Terran play you've ever seen, where you look at it and you say, that is how you play Terran, and take a series off anybody. And that's how he got his GSL win. But we will see. We will see. Same openings from both players. Cure is actually going to be going up, though, to 5 Reapers. And actually should be adding on a 4th, or a 3rd Hellion, maybe even the 4th if he wants to be a bit cheeky, but should only be the 3rd. And then the Tech Lab to immediately follow. But that does mean he wants to be a bit more aggressive. He wants to apply a bit more pressure, is usually what this means. So we'll see how that does end up going for him, as the Reapers will finish up. Tech Lab onto that factory and one onto the starport. So other than the additional Reapers in the Hellion, this looks, I mean, pretty much completely standard from Cure. It does mean, though, that if he goes across the map and, you know, tries to dive on top of this army for Maru, well, if the Cyclone's not in position, should be able to get a pretty decent trade. If the Cyclone is there, that really does negate all of the damage that you can get, as Reaper almost goes down immediately. Do we see the split? Well, you see good focus fire from Maru. Reaper goes down. Now the Cyclone's just going to push forward. And suddenly this opening doesn't really altogether do that much. The Raven from Maru will just be a teensy bit faster, as well as the tank, again, has a bit of that extra gas. He didn't use the 100 gas on the additional Reapers. So we'll just have a pace advantage as this Reaper is going to try and escape. Oh, the KD8 charge! Oh. Can't get out, but dies a magnificent death, as one of the other Reapers will find its way across the map. So Maru will get his scouting information. He will not be deterred. Yeah, he gets to see everything. It is this 2 racks opening here from Cure, so this is a bit of a mix-up. The 2 racks opening does actually allow you to get a much faster stim. This is what Time actually did against Maru in their series every game, and it worked very, very well. So we'll see how Cure uses this, because it's a build that gets you early map pressure. It gets you early map control, because your opponent's not really able to challenge your Marines, especially with stim pack. If you have the medevacs, they will just trade better, and so you can really try and take aggressive trades if your opponent isn't in position, if their tanks are not defended. And we'll see if that is the plan here for Cure. Now, the one downside is, well, you have a slower third base because of it, and that's absolutely the case here. That's almost a minute on that CC that Cure is going to be behind. That means the Orbital Command Center for Maru will be finished first. He'll have, you know, his mules dropping a lot sooner. And so just because of how these openings play out, you're actually just going to see Maru in everything but stim pack should be ahead. His 1-1 upgrade should be started faster. His tank count should be higher, and his Raven count should be higher. And that is absolutely what we see. His 1-1 started on the way for Maru here. Has his 3 Ravens out, is going to be swapping over in order to get into that Viking production. As we are seeing a bit of a stalemate here. Both the players just moving around, just trying to see what they can see now. The one worry here for Cure, of course, is, well, yes, his CC will kind of be actually finishing up around, or landing on location at the same time as Maru's. Again, you know, you're relying a lot on medevacs. You're relying a lot on your ability to be in multiple places at once with this army. And so if you're not able to be aggressive, if you're not able to try and find advantages in the early to mid game, realistically you're just going to start to fall behind a little bit. It's not going to be massive. Again, you're going to have combat shields first. You have your stim pack already done. You know, your upgrades aren't terribly far behind, but Maru will just be one step ahead in his tech option. Now we do see Cure splitting up his army and moving it over to try and make a concentrated effort here onto the third base, and this is absolutely what you need to do. Now Maru's stim will be finishing up, his +1/+1 will be finishing up, but you have combat shields for Cure, you have the medevacs, you have the tanks, but the Raven count for Maru is also just so scary. It's so hard to find an opening in this defense. Maru just has absolutely every option covered, and so Cure just has to back up and say, well, that didn't work. What next? And the answer is, well, not a whole lot. Both these players just going to be macroing up from this position. +2/+2 starts up evenly for both players. Dead even in the supplies. Kira is still trying to shark around, and I mean, the hard thing is, you know, Maru, of course, has the sensor tower on his third, so he can move his Vikings and Ravens over if he sees anything there. And then he's actually positioning his army so that he's ready for a move out from Kira to attack into that position between the third and the natural, which is, of course, the most vulnerable spot at this point in the game for a Terran. It really is just very, very good defensive positioning. It means that Kira doesn't get anything from the opening, doesn't get anything with that faster stim, with the faster combat shields, and really, you know, yields a net 0, as Maru will be floating out his command center onto location. And that second factory is going to get added on. Kira actually did already have his finished. Has not allowed him to take the lead in the tank count, but that should change fairly shortly. Has more starports going down, and it looks like, once again, 3 games in a row, we're going straight to the late game. And I can't say I mind. Again, both these players are so good. Their mechanics are so just well practiced that these late game situations are an absolute blast to watch. It does mean that, you know, for the first 8 minutes or so can be a little bit boring, but it also means that we get some awesome late game TVT, which is what we all want to see between these two players, is that late game TVT, is for them to flex their micro, you know, their control. Their decision making especially has been absolutely massive. And I mean, TVT really, it comes down quite a lot in the late game to what decisions are you making? Are you positioned correctly? You know, do you have your units in the right place? Because if you do, that's half the work. You're already halfway there to winning the game if you can check off all those things, and that's the hard part, is keeping vision control. You know, keeping tabs on your opponent's army, keeping your upgrades up, just being ready for whatever happens. And I mean, both Kira and Maru are so good at that, and in fact, they're so good at it that when one of them makes a mistake, the game completely swings. As Kira is positioning towards his third base once again, Maru moving over his units. Corvid reactor started up for Maru, and the 3-3 actually is not going to be behind for Kira as it has been in other games. But taking, I mean, an assessment of the situation, both players maxed out. Kira does have more tanks, currently 11-8. But look at the Raven count, 5-2. We're just gonna see this game of positioning. As Maru pushing on the right side of the map. He's going to try and find an opening here. Actually sieges up, places down missile turrets to try and hunker down this location. Oh, here. Oh, he just so out of position. Maru just stims forward, immediately gets the kill on a tank, cleans up the building missile turrets, and, well, gets the heck out of dodge. Does not want to try and stay in that position. Knows that he can't push it. Looking like for a second that Kira stepped out of place, and that's what I'm talking about. These games are so close. Just one little, you know, oh, your army isn't quite there. You move it slightly out of position. The other player can come in and pounce, as Kira is going to try and collapse on into this base. There are 3 tanks, but if you split your Marines, you can absolutely deal with that, and Kira does so actually fantastically. Beautiful splits from the DPG Terran, is going to be able to force the liftoff. And also force the army to come back for Maru. As he cleans up another tank, 22 workers go down. Those are the moves that you need to see from Kira. Now with a worker advantage. Already has a bank built up, so he's going to be able to take more aggressive trades if he would like. I gotta say, this is probably the best look we've seen from Cure in the late game. You know, the other ones, they've looked decent. They've been close, but this is the best position that he's been in. And all he needs to do is just to make sure that he can rebuild after this fight as Maru just committing on in. All of the tanks are disabled. And Maru just says, no, you are not going to be allowed to be ahead. That's not how this works. Tanks are going to siege up the base, and once again, Maru takes a decisive fight with the higher Raven count, 8 Ravens to 3. And absolutely crushes through Cure. 2 command centers fall, and suddenly, well, that bank that was being built up doesn't really matter anymore. Because Cure wasn't able to return any of the damage onto Maru. I mean, look at the resources lost. That is insane. As these tanks aren't sieged up, Maru, I mean, he wants to push this position, but I feel like it's so dangerous too. Oh, interference matrices, 3 tanks disabled. Maru going to continue to push this location. Now the Marines are stimming in. There are tanks in the back, but they're not sieged, and now the air fight not going to go that well for Cure as the Vikings fall from the ground. Or fall to the ground. It's 10 tanks to 6. The Raven count still ahead for Maru. He's pushing down bases, and even though, I mean, Cure's like not that far behind in supply, it just doesn't matter. Maru's able to push the decision making, the positioning, it's all there for the NV Terran. That's that piece of junk. I mean, that was like a carnival ride from hell right there. Cure's gonna try and break this position, but he's gonna lose quite a few Marines doing so. Needs to try and take just a base. Needs to try and get something, as Maru right now almost has his entire side of the map claimed. Currently sitting at 7 bases. And again, Cure's just out of position. I mean, you take this base and then suddenly, well, Maru's there, but where's Cure? His army is not there. Even though he has vision on it, even though he has information, he just is not able to challenge it. He's not risking another fight because he knows that if he does, if he loses that is game over. And so Maru's just able to do whatever he wants. Cure's afraid to take the fight. And I mean, he should be. You know, he has less Ravens, he has less tanks, he has less of pretty much everything. But it suddenly puts Cure again in another position where it feels like he has to do something. He has to make just a YOLO move to try and win this game, or else it's slowly going to just bleed out. He's slowly going to bleed out, and it will end up going over to Maru. As Cure trying to position anti-armor missiles just constantly put down onto this entire army. Tanks just being sieged up, actually getting a ton of value here for Maru. The Marine's gonna try and stim on down. As Maru closing in with his army. He's found the surround. Uh-oh, Cure, are you ready? I don't think you are. The tanks are disabled. It's just Marines and Ravens. The auto turrets aren't enough. Look at the supply drop as Maru finds the surround. He knows that Cure is out of position. These 2 final tanks are gonna get cleaned up. The Ravens could still drop auto turrets, and Cure was in such a good position, but it doesn't matter. GG! And what a series he has been playing. I mean, Cure hasn't been playing bad. You know, Cure has been playing really well, but it's, as I said, it's the small decisions, the small positioning. And it's insane because Maru, as soon as you misstep, there he is, taking advantage of it, compounding his lead tenfold if you give him any space. I mean, in this matchup, Maru demands no less than perfect play for you to try and beat him. And unfortunately, Cure has not been able to play perfectly. And now we're on to Berlingrad. Potentially the last game of this series in a 4-0 sweep. I mean, a 4-0 sweep in the last, kind of tournament before Katowice. Would that not be a statement for Maru coming into it, that he should be a favorite to win it all? And man, it kind of gives you the nerd chills. You feel the tingles, the goosebumps. They start coming in. But now all the pressure is on Cure. You're down 3-0. They have been, 3 20-minute games. 20-plus minute games. And each time, Maru has just slowly bled you dry. And now you have to try and make a reverse sweep. It is certainly a daunting task. And we'll see if Cure can do it. This is what we come for. This is why we watch StarCraft 2. Is for this. This is what we want. As interestingly enough, Starport is going to go down a bit faster here for Maru. Actually, a bit of difference in the opening. Only went 2 Reapers and a Hellion. So Maru actually is betting on Cure not pushing across the map. Gets out the early Marines, is going immediately into a tank and a medevac. Maru, it's game 4. You're on match point, and he says, you know what? I want to be aggressive. And it actually makes so much sense because Maru, up to this point, has played completely standard each and every game. So why would he change that? Especially on Berlingrad. Why would he change that? That's what he's betting on Cure, thinking, as look at this, he's loading up. He's going to go across the map. Maru wants to end this game. Oh, really? He wants to get damage done. And I am absolutely here for it. Cure. Is he ready? If this army gets caught out, this could be massive. If the medevac, though, gets caught out, this could be massive. Tank drops down. Marines unloading. Immediately a snipe onto the Hellion. As Maru is going to siege his tank on up. Move his units onto the high ground. Leaves a few behind. And Maru now going to try and leverage this position just in range here of the reactor. And I believe, of the supply depot as well, as pick up onto the Hellion to remove the lock-on. Maru picks up. Come on down, doesn't want to risk committing too far forward as the supply depot goes down. Another one has been built, however. The Raven is now out, and this is the big danger here for Maru if this Raven goes down. But the auto turret, why is the auto turret placed there? That's a massive mistake from Cure as he's trying to push this. The Marines are still alive. The tank is still firing. Maru focus fires the Marines. Cleans up a lot, but the tank ends up falling. Cure able to clean it up, but no. Maru rallying across the map. He's bringing in everything. This is, you can't do this, right? You can't. Cure has 2 tanks at home, has 2 Ravens. There's no way that Maru commits. Yeah, he's just gonna go back home. I was gonna say that would be too Maru even for me if he did end up doing that. But repairs are gonna go down onto the medevac, onto the Cyclone. Maru just gonna make sure that his units are in good stead. But gets decent damage done. It's not massive. It's not game ending, but you get some decent damage done. Okay. Why do I even try and question this man? Maru is going to push out once again. 2 tanks now and a medevac, the Cyclone, and the Marines here. It's a single Raven, but it's 3 Ravens for Cure, and this is what I'm saying. This is the danger, is if your opponent plays completely standard, it doesn't feel like you really have a shot, as the Cyclone does get a good amount of damage onto the tank, and actually, Cure is a bit out of position. These tanks going to siege on up. Ooh, focus fire onto the Cyclone. Tanks refocused actually onto the tank of Cure. It doesn't matter, the tanks go down. Beautifully done there by Cure. Managed to get rid of that. Oh, but the Marines are going up. Maru's going YOLO. The Viking is going to now push up. The Ravens are going to fall. Maru picks up the medevac. It's so low, but it survives. The Ravens go down. Now, you're going to see the Reapers start to fall. This tank is alone. Cure hasn't repositioned his tank. Maru is going to continue to push it. How? How low is that medevac? As Maru now trying to push the front somehow makes this work. I have no idea how, but Maru makes it work. As he has sieged that. Oh, those tanks aren't in range. What? As Maru sieges up that tank just outside of range, picks it up. No, Maru, that's 14 health on this medevac. What are you doing? Maru, the Cyclone is, what? This is madness, Cure. I mean, Cure just needs to siege a tank on the high ground. There's no Raven. He has 3 tanks. But Maru is gonna get another kill onto the add-on. And Cure, I mean, he just does not know how to handle this right now. Maru has 4 Vikings. He's just gonna snipe the Vikings of his opponent. Okay, Maru has air superiority once again. 7 Vikings out on the map. He's rallying across. Maru has a 3rd base on location. He's going into the main again with the medevac. Here we go. Gonna try and land it down. The tank drops, the Vikings land. Immediately the tank of Cure is gonna be sniped. Maru now is gonna kite back with the Vikings against SCVs, and that's never a fight you wanna take is Cure. As the medevac still survives, picks up the Viking. The low ground tank does so much damage. Cure drops to 67 supply, loses 16 workers. No, Maru, stop it. Stop it. No, you're not allowed. This is not fair. We're back on the high ground. We're going again. The pickup, the get out. Okay. Good. Just stop here, Maru. You don't do any more. The Vikings are gonna push on forward. No. Oh, the Vikings are gonna go for the tank again? What? What is this? This is ridiculous. How is Cure not cleaning this up? How has Maru microed this so well? The combat shield is denied. Maru is on 3 bases. Cure finally has landed his own. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, Cure has 21 Marines. What are you gonna do with 21 Marines? You're not really gonna do a lot. As the Vikings continuing to push, buildings have to be lifted off. Cure is gonna try and find a counterattack here with these Marines, but it might just not matter because Maru has done so much work with a 14 health medevac, a few Vikings, and some tanks that he has crippled the economy of his opponent. He has crippled the production of his opponent, and he has tanks back at home. This is not fair. This is just not fair. Cure, bring the Marines back. He's gonna look, oh, he's going for the surround. He's gonna try and clean it up. Cure, there we go, the tanks go down. The medevac fell before that. And now, oh, the Vikings as well. Loses a lot of them. Cure is finally gonna be able to clean up that position, but look how much time it took. That was, that was 5 minutes of attacking, of just constant pressure from Maru, and now Cure is gonna look to push this location. The Vikings just land in the main piece, why not? They're gonna get more worker kills. As Good Folks Fire comes out, 6 SCVs end up falling. I mean, Cure's economy is crippled, and now Cure is looking to push though. If Cure can delay this 4th base from going down, he can be in, I mean, I guess a decent position. He's down 30 supply, but his army is actually still decently large right now. You know, he has 3 tanks, 3 tanks. He has a Viking, has the Marine count, and his upgrades are actually even. It's really just the workers that's making a majority of this difference. That's 20 supply of this 30 supply difference in workers. So if Cure can just find an attack, if he can find an opening somehow, he can make this work. But he's gonna need a miracle to get back into this game as Maru is looking to close out the 4-0 sweep. The constant pressure, now 4 bases. He's up an entire base, 20 workers over his opponent, 13 supply. Maru has a small group of Marines that are gonna make their way around the map. Maru knows about this attack. The sensor tower has finished. He's not pulling back his Marines though. Cure's going on in. Does he have the split of the Marines? He does. They're taking a lot of damage, but he's going to be able to clean up the tanks. There we go. The tanks go down. Maru now stimming forward the Marines. Tank sieges forward, but it is getting attacked. It gets the kill on the 4th. That is absolutely brutal. Another tank goes down for Maru, but he's just pushing the front with these Marines. I mean, the base killed, and now the SCVs once again have to be pulled. And Maru just gonna pick up, just gonna get on out. Okay. Cure, I mean, again, he has a large army. 83 army supply right now. He needs to make something work. He has to. That base getting killed has sealed the deal. You have to all in from this position. There is no other option, especially with this drop going into the main. You gotta go. If you're Cure, you gotta go. And Maru's just setting up counterattacks. Maru doesn't even have his whole army home. As the first tank goes down, Cure stepping forward, manages to kill one tank, should be able to get the second now. Just siege up this position. Maybe no, he's gonna push even further, but there's another tank here. There's two tanks actually. And Maru doesn't even have to do anything. He has a counterattack at the third. GG, Maru gets the sweep.